Good evening. We'd like to welcome everyone to today's City of Little Rock Board of Directors meeting for November the 1st, 2022. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Richardson.
Here.
Director Webb.
Here.
Director Peck.
Here.
Director Wright. Director Wyrick.
Present.
Director Campuris. Director Phillips. Director Adcock.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hines.
Present.
Mayor Scott.
Present. Director Miller, if you would, please share the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. First, please join me in a moment of silence as we individually and collectively prepare our hearts and our minds for the invocation. We thank all residents of Little Rock, our city employees, our administration, our city board for the hard work and efforts to make our city the best it can be. Let us focus this evening and not be distracted by things that take our attention away from the best interests of our city. May this meeting tonight reflect our shared values of trust, fellowship, and ethics. May we deliberate with wisdom, insight, impartiality, thoughtfulness, patience, kindness, respect, and love for one another. May we work together towards the shared mission of making our city better each and every time we meet. And as we work together with honesty and integrity, we appreciate each and every voice that speaks tonight. We are a diverse group, and we're not here by coincidence, but because we choose to work and volunteer together. In that spirit, let our work this evening lift our city, let it reflect the love we have for our city, and let it reflect the love and respect we have for one another. Thank you.
Amen. May y'all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda. Director Peck.
Yes, sir. I had my hand up. Thank you for recognizing me. A point of personal privilege here. I would like to make some comments about things that have gone on the past couple of days. If you all will indulge me, I will take my mask off. Mayor, excuse me, I truly appreciate that election politics have no place in a city board meeting. But your recent statements yesterday on Twitter and your actions and the actions of one of your direct reports have put into question my personal integrity and honesty. I am compelled to set the record straight now during our regular board meeting, and I would appreciate not being interrupted by you or any of my colleagues on the board until I'm finished. Furthermore, this is not a personnel matter. I know we can't discuss those things. This is a matter of our chief executive officer instructing someone to withhold information from the planning department. First of all, I had never had an idea that a very simple request by a constituent about an RFQ in 2020 would be so incredibly controversial. Let me explain what really happened. I've made very copious and accurate notes documenting everything I was told in the last 6 days regarding this matter. I received an email from a constituent, Kent Myers, regarding RFQ 840 on Wednesday, October the 26th. This RFQ concerns a comprehensive development plan for 3 areas in Little Rock. Mr. Myers' email asked if I knew anything about the RFQ and if the board had seen the presentation. I knew nothing about it, and allow me to clarify Kent Myers' role here and my relationship with him. Mayor, in your comment on Twitter about this yesterday, You point the finger at Mr. Myers, saying he, quote, ran to the press to push this false narrative, end quote. That is false. I reached out to the press that covers City Hall, not Mr. Myers, and that will be explained shortly. A little bit of background on my relationship with Kent Myers. I met him a few months ago. He reached out to me as his Ward 4 director, saying he'd recently moved to Little Rock. And since he was a constituent of mine, he invited me for coffee to get to know me, and I accepted. We met, and Mr. Myers told me about his background and his experience in municipal government. He served as city manager in the city of Hot Springs and in Fredericksburg, Texas. He explained that he and his wife were so excited to be back in Little Rock, and he told me that he would love to get involved and volunteer for any project I might be working on to make our city a better place for all. He told me about his relationship and friendship with City Manager Moore, who he's known for many years, and I subsequently told Bruce that I had the privilege of meeting Kent, and both of them had nothing but kind words and a lot of mutual respect for each other. Then, a few weeks after I met Mr. Myers, he had the courtesy to reach out to me to tell me that he had decided to help Steve Landers with his campaign. I wished him luck and saw him many times after that meeting and after that conversation. I saw him most every Tuesday here, but we never had a conversation about politics, the campaign, or any conversation at all. We would wave, nod, that sort of acknowledgement. But back to the original email from Mr. Myers requesting my assistance as his ward director regarding the RFQ. Kent mentioned in the email that he'd been at a conference that Bruce also attended over the previous weekend. Kent asked Bruce about the RFQ and development plans, and Bruce said he wasn't aware of it either. So this email was truly a simple request to assist him in getting the document in question, a matter of public record from Director Collins. And that's the job I signed up for, to help my constituents get information they need from City Hall. So on Wednesday of last week, I called Jamie Collins to see if he was getting the information for Mr. Myers. He said Bruce had also instructed him to do so as soon as possible. Jamie told me he would do his very best to get the information to Kent later that day. That was last Wednesday. But he said it might be Thursday. He then provided some explanation about why it was so time-consuming and cumbersome. He said that this RFQ was a comprehensive development plan for 3 parts of our city: downtown, southwest, and the I-630 corridor. He said the RFQ was for phase 1, which dealt with housing, affordable housing in or near War Memorial. I was not clear if he was referring to within the park or near it, but I was frankly very surprised. Jamie went on to explain that this was about the time we were involved with the Rebuild the Rock campaign, the unsuccessful sales tax campaign initiative, which, by the way, I supported. He explained that this was going on during the pandemic, so the presentation was on the WebEx platform, and it was time-consuming, but he was working on it diligently. He then raised the question why Mr. Myers might be interested in the RFQ. He said it was never shared with the board because since the sales tax failed, it was just a draft. I told Jamie that I didn't ask Mr. Myers why he wanted the information. I was simply trying to do my job and assisting a constituent with an information request. I then called several of my colleagues to see if they knew anything about the project and the RFQ, and none of them had heard of it. Then on Friday, October 28th, Jamie called me between 7:30 and 7:45 in the morning. He told me that he thought something was fishy about this request and that it might have something to do with the upcoming election. He then said that he wasn't going to send the information to Myers after all, although 14 hours earlier, he told me he would be doing so. He then said, quote, "This is between you and me." I said, okay, not knowing what would follow. He then proceeded to tell me that you, Mr. Mayor, told him to not send the document. I was shocked. I told Jamie I was very uncomfortable since I'd promised the information was forthcoming. Jamie then told me that he would, quote, be the bad guy, quote, end quote, and proceeded to say he was going to take off for a few days, but would return on Tuesday, which is today, but now I understand he's not going to return till Thursday. At any rate, I then called Bruce Moore on Friday after I'd spoken to Jamie to let him know that Jamie told me that the mayor told him to not send the information. Bruce was surprised and promised to look into it. Bruce attempted to contact Jamie, who I believe by this time had taken off, so Bruce was unable to talk to him. He said he would communicate with someone in planning to get this record sent to Mr. Myers, and Bruce told me, I will send it. So now we're on Saturday, October 29th. I texted Bruce at 10:30 in the morning, and I told him that Mr. Myers had let me know that he still had not received anything. My text to Bruce said, did you have any luck with the planning department getting the document to Kent? I think the clock started ticking on this Tuesday afternoon when Kent first requested the information from Jamie at our agenda meeting. Jamie said he would get it to him by Wednesday or Thursday at the latest. And then Friday, I find out that Jamie has changed his mind because the mayor told him not to do so. Bruce and I had a conversation later on Saturday, and he told me he spoke to someone in planning, I don't recall who, and that this person called Jamie, who was taking some PTO, who in turn called the mayor, who then called Bruce, and told Bruce that we would not be releasing the public record, the document. Bruce sounded exasperated and said he actually advised you, the mayor, to release the records, and especially in light of what has been going on in the court with all of the FOIA requests. I asked Bruce, what can I do now? And he told me, get somebody to send a FOIA request. At that point, I was extremely frustrated and confused. So I reached out to reporters who cover City Hall, namely Joe Flaherty with the Democrat Gazette, Mitch McCoy with KARK Channel 4, Matt Campbell with the Blue Hog Report, and Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. I asked them all to send a request. I know that Mitch did so on Saturday afternoon, and I can only assume that this is what precipitated an email from Jamie Collins to Kent Myers on Sunday, October 30th. The email included a draft report and the presentation about the RFQ in question, and that was sent at 10:52 Sunday morning. Kent promptly sent me an email letting me know he did finally receive something from Jamie and wondered why Jamie had changed his mind. We didn't have a conversation about this. This was in an email. Kent opened the file Jamie sent him, and it only included the presentation, which was dated last February. It didn't include the actual plan, which is what Kent had requested. So Kent requested it again. He got an automatic response for Jamie after he sent the presentation that said that, I'll be out of the office with limited email. Friday through Wednesday, I'll be back in the office Thursday if you need immediate assistance, ... Again, I just cannot imagine what could be so controversial about a 2-plus-year-old document from the planning department. I'm just flabbergasted. So that is my whole timeline, and over the last 7 days. Again, this has called into question my personal integrity, my honesty, and I feel compelled to tell the truth, and I'm willing to go on the record and swear under oath that this was exactly the conversations I have. And I've just got a couple of questions. Tom, were you at all involved?
No. The first information I had about this, I didn't even know it was about this, was a text message from you on Saturday night. I was attending my wife's 50th high school reunion. I was the old person there. And then I spoke with you sometime Monday and learned more about it.
Thank you. Bruce, will you recall what I told you Friday when we talked about why Jamie had changed his mind and was not going to send the document after all?
Could you clarify that question? I want to be sure I answer specifically.
When you and I talked on Friday after I, in a state of frustration, called you to tell you that Jamie was not going to send the documents after all, and I told you why Jamie had changed his mind. He told me the mayor told him not to. Can you verify that that's what I did tell you?
That is what you told me.
And why did Jamie say he had changed his mind? What did I tell you?
Because you told me that the mayor had instructed him not to release the document.
That's exactly correct. Do you know, Bruce, why the planning department didn't send you the requested documents on Friday?
When I called the office, as you mentioned, Mr. Collins was not there. His assistant then called, I would assume called Jamie, and I don't believe she had access to the document. And then the mayor did call me Friday afternoon.
And what did the mayor say to you when you talked to him about this?
We talked about the meaning of FOI and had it been approached the correct way. And I said that it's a public document that should be released. And that was Friday afternoon, and it was released Sunday morning, I believe.
Do you know, or can you speculate why the mayor didn't advise you to release the document immediately?
Well, Director Becker, as I've said publicly, I didn't have the document to release. So there was no dialogue with me releasing it. Now, my intention Friday afternoon was to get a copy of it from the planning department and release it, because I had said throughout the week in my conversations with Jamie that I felt that it was releasable. I understood that it hadn't been presented to the board. And as you noted, Mr. Myers is a former city manager, and I told Mr. Collins to stamp draft on it and explain that it had not been presented to the city board, and I thought he would treat that respectfully.
Thank you. Mayor, what in this RFQ is so secretive? I mean, why did you not want it released?
Director Peck, I'm not on trial or examination. I'm going to listen to your comments and then respond.
I just had a simple question. I just feel like there must be something there that
And I will
people
answer
know about.
as soon as you get done speaking.
Okay, all right, thank you. Can you tell me why the RFQ was done for less than $50,000? Was that deliberate? so it
Again,
can come to
Director
the
Peck,
board?
I will answer after you get done
Okay.
speaking.
Did a friend or a campaign contributor get selected for the project?
Again, I'll speak after this
Okay.
because I'm not on trial, Director Peck.
Okay, all right, I'm not accusing, I'm just asking questions.
I wish you would have called or accept the phone calls.
You did call me yesterday when I was in the middle of kitchen remodeling, and I'm saying everything I want to say right now again.
I
You're
appreciate
basically
that.
calling me a liar, and I take great offense to that.
I've never called you a liar, Director
Anybody in
Peck.
here, well, yes, you are. And Jamie is, and I wish Jamie was here so I could have the opportunity to ask him to lie to me right here in front of my face. But why wasn't the presentation ever shared with the board, and especially in light of the fact that we've got this ARPA money and the budget surplus that could be used for affordable housing? We all know there's a need for affordable housing across the city. We had this study done. I wonder why it was never shared with the board.
I can share once you're finished.
Okay. And the final question, which truly baffled me, why was War Memorial one of the 3 sites being considered for housing or in that corridor?
Again,
Those are my questions. And again, I don't want to be antagonistic about this. I am just telling the truth. I'm speaking to the truth. I have a very clear and vivid memory of exactly all of these conversations over the last 6 days. I hate that it's come to this. Mayor, I think you know that I have tried so hard during your tenure to be on your team and to support you, and have supported the sales tax initiative and so many other votes to support you because I wanted you to succeed so the city would succeed. I hate that it's come to this, but I feel compelled to speak publicly, to clear the record and speak the truth.
Thank you so much, Director Peck. Thank you so much, Director Peck. I do appreciate you sharing your perspective, as I haven't had any conversations with you about this matter. I'll be very brief because we do have an agenda. I don't want to belabor the point because I won't go line by line. But to Director Peck and members of the board, first and foremost, I want you to know, Director Peck, I've never called you a lie or a liar. You and I have never had a conversation about this instance. Don't know if there's any miscommunication and misunderstanding because we haven't discussed this matter at all. I wish we could have discussed this matter. So that's number one. So from my book, I've never accused, alleged, or called you a lie or a liar. I just want to make sure that record stays, and I say that person to person, eye to eye. Never accused, called, or alleged you to be a liar whatsoever. Secondly, do not know the conversations that you and Director Honeywell has had and the details and things of that nature, so I can't speak to that. What did I say? I said Honeywell, I apologize. Director Collins. Second or thirdly, I can tell you and the members of the board categorically and completely, as I've already shared with the public, I have not instructed Director Collins nor City Manager Moore not to produce or release anything whatsoever. That's the fact, that's the truth, that's my word. Fourthly, as it relates to Mr. Kent Myers, because this is being political the way that it's been demonstrated right here, so I will be political too. Mr. Kent Myers is, from my understanding, not only a Steve Landers supporter, he's also a Steve Landers consultant. It's mighty odd of the different things and the actions and what was reported in regards to Mr. Kent Myers. So that's number one. I won't go into too much detail there besides the fact, you're right, a 2-year-old contract all of a sudden becomes an issue and the person requesting information, oh, by the way, the information that he requested initially was not even available, wasn't even produced, wasn't available, wasn't even a part of anything. And so, Mr. Kent Myers received the information on Sunday morning. Not aware, Mr. Kent Myers received information Sunday morning. Again, not aware of who, I guess you said you called Mitch McCoy, wasn't even aware about Mitch McCoy until Monday when Mitch McCoy contacted our office. So that's the first I ever knew about it. First I ever knew about you even being involved, Director Peck, is when I had a conversation with Max Brantley. And I shared Max Brantley. I said, Mr. Brantley, we've sent this information on Sunday. He said, well, I'm talking about RFQ. I said, well, the RFQ information was never requested of us. The information that was requested of us was received on Sunday. Point blank, period. So it sounds like there's a lot of miscommunication, there's a lot of misunderstanding. To the people of Little Rock, it's 7 days away from an election. There are a lot of weird things that are gonna happen. I'm sure more is gonna happen tomorrow. I mean, it is what it is on that particular standpoint. What I will share again, I have not instructed Director Collins nor City Manager Moore not to produce anything. And everything that has been requested from Mr. Myers was produced on Sunday. Everything that was requested in official FOI request on Monday has been presented to everyone. We don't keep records. We make sure everyone has what they are requesting. So we want to make sure that everything is, and sir, whoever that is, please be respectful. We're all trying, we've already asked, Director Peck has been very respectful. I'm going to be very respectful. We just ask that you follow suit. Finally, no, not necessarily finally. Thank you so much, sir. We do appreciate you. We may have to ask you to, you continue to disrupt, we may have to ask you to leave. So please do not disrupt again. Excuse me? Excuse me? Someone say something?
Yes, I said something, but I'll speak my piece when it comes to my time.
Thank you, Mr. Norwood. I appreciate that. As I will continue, moving forward, again, having instructed, I've stated that. Mr. Collins has stated his perspective. That's a matter of public record. Again, Director Peck, I respect you. I admire you and what you do for our city. I've never alleged or called you a liar. If I wanted to do that, if I felt to do that, I would do that face to face. I don't hide behind words. But I want to make sure you know how much I respect you and I honor you. You've always been a person to be upfront. And so I just hope as we move forward that we can heal together. I hope we can have a personal conversation together and move past this because this is about the residents of Little Rock on how we unite together. I know you are of the spirit of unity. I want to continue to do that with you because you're right. You've always been there to be anything that's positive and good for the city of Little Rock, and we appreciate you for that. But again, from my perspective, my word, facts, and truth, categorically and completely did not instruct anyone not to produce anything. And everything that was requested has been produced on Sunday. Everything was requested on Monday morning was produced Monday evening. I do want to credit the city attorney, his office, because he turned it around pretty quickly. I think everyone knows that the city of Little Rock receives an inordinate amount of FOIA requests. We have a staff issue. I'm glad we are hiring more people to ensure that we get that done. And city attorney's office has really been working hard to get those done. As we know, we're under certain things. I'm going to be the last person to halt anything that puts me in court for show cause. As Judge Welch said, the buck stops with me, so I want to make sure all the information gets out. So all that being said to everyone, members of the board, we can agree to disagree on a number of different things. We're here for the people of Little Rock who elected us to do the right thing, to do everything in the best spirit of unity, best spirit of the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Little Rock. I know each of you love this city. I know each of you want to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean that we will always agree. I do appreciate that we can agree and disagree with civility because we are a representation of our residents here, and I want us to continue to do that. Again, Director Peck, whenever we can sit down for coffee or lunch, I would love to do that and listen to your concerns, and so we can heal and reconcile together. But again, I want to make sure you know I've never alleged, called you a liar. If I wanted to do that, if I felt that was the fact, I would let you know because I don't run away from the truth. But again, as we move forward and finally get back to the business of the city of Little Rock, as we get back to the business of the city of Little Rock, we just say thank you for everyone who's watching today. Again, it's 7 days to Election Day. We know many things can happen that no one can control. We want to move forward, again, in the best unity for the city of Little Rock. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, one other thing. I believe I heard City Manager Moore say that you did tell him not to send the document.
Mr. Moore did not have a document to send. Again, I've already stated that, but
I mean,
Director
we're
Webb.
talking about semantics here.
No, we're not. Director Webb, I'm on record. I've already shared that. Director Webb.
I mean, I was, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of things, but because there are a lot of things that we could get into, but as the director for Ward 3, when I heard about this and heard that War Memorial was included, I would like to request a copy of the draft as well.
Yes, ma'am. And I didn't get a chance to address that, so I do apologize, Director Webb. For everyone, the planning department, the parks department, there are a number of different plans that are done throughout the city of Little Rock, not only in my administration, but every administration before me. There are a number of different plans that go there. As I can share with everyone again, I believe this was 2 years old, so I don't even remember everything that was involved in it. I do know because our city has not had a true master plan for our city. That's the exact reason why you have to have funding for it. But as we all know, during the rebuild of the Rock, there was looking at some plans for downtown Little Rock, southwest Little Rock, south of 630, the corridor of I-630. Again, those plans and whatever was produced, that's not a Frank Scott Jr. plan produced. We asked for consultants to look at that and provide us what they felt like could be a true market study on what could happen in those particular areas. I can't even remember if I even seen it. So it's such a long time ago. It was 2 years ago, I believe someone said, and actually 2 years ago in the middle of a pandemic. So do not recall that. We'll make sure every member of the board gets that document. And what we'll probably, we'll make sure you get that. And again, that document for members of the board, that's not my document. That's a document from a company, and that's their thoughts on what could happen. Again, as we all know, when consultants bring different stuff before us, it's up to us to determine how it's executed and implemented. And so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that, and we'll get that to everyone. Director Wyrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to share my thoughts with Director Peck tonight. I know this was very difficult for her to go through this scenario, to go through it publicly, to be defamed or discredited for the words that she said. And I want to congratulate her on bringing everything to the forefront so all of us know, the people that are watching know. I know it was very hard for her. She is a stellar city director. She's worked with the homeless, the children, the parks, all these things that she's been involved in, and she has her own business. So she knows what it's like to be truthful and to share the truth. So I appreciate her coming forward. I know it was hard for her to do. One of the other things that I'd like to bring up is in a campaign, an incumbent has an edge on a campaign. They just do. Because they know where meetings are, they know where the people are gathered. They know a lot of internal workings, whether it be the mayor or whether it be the city board. But one of the factors that I think is unfair to anyone is the fact that we have city staff that are looking at things that are being requested by individuals and say, well, this sounds fishy, and call the mayor and ask permission to answer an FOI request. And I just think that that is wrong. I think it's wrong to anybody that's out there that has an opportunity to run for the city board. I would not do that as a board of director. So an incumbent has a disadvantage, and for you to tell people not to provide information, that is just wrong. So I do want to go on record that I object to that. And I kind of understand why you might not have wanted it released. If you're talking about low-income housing in War Memorial Park, there'd be a lot of people that would not be happy with that. The other thing I'd like to say is when we do plans, when we did downtown Little Rock, when we did other plans, we had the Planning Commission come together and look at the possibilities for these plans. I don't believe that happened. Mr. Moore didn't know about it. So it seems like we're doing planning that involves just a few people and not the departments that we asked to handle that. So that's just a few of my comments. One of your sayings, if I didn't tell the truth, I couldn't sleep tonight. So that's what I feel is the truth, that what Cappy is saying. And I do appreciate her for her coming forward and sharing all that.
Thank you so much, Director Wyrick. Vice Mayor Hines.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm having a little trouble understanding some timelines because earlier this year, with the knowledge that there was going to be yet another contract done under $50,000 without the board's approval, I asked City Manager Bruce Moore on April 22nd to run a report of all contracts from January 1, 2019 until the current date in April of any contract between $5,001 and $49,999. I received that report on May 1st of this year. Looked at it, felt that I knew most of the things in there, didn't felt at the time that it warranted any further looking into. I felt fairly comfortable. I knew everything that was going on. Fast forward to this past week, and the knowledge that there was yet another RFQ that was done, but that there also was a contract executed on this RFQ for under $50,000. So I went back to my records and reviewed it. That RFQ 840 and the subsequent contract was not in the documents. So I asked City Manager Moore on Saturday, I sent it to him and I said, with all the stuff brewing on this, why wasn't this included in the list I got in April of 2022? At this point I told him I want a copy of the contract that was executed. He told me he would look into it and find out, but that no one had edited the report that was sent to me. So fast forward, on Sunday afternoon, he forwards me an email from Mr. Patel in the purchasing department with the contract attached to it. And Mr. Patel said that the reason it wasn't included on my report because for some reason, the report was not scanned in until May 5th, 4 days after that report was given to me, and therefore that's why it wasn't on there. And then that goes to today, and so I asked Bruce to get me when that contract for RFQ 840 was paid by the city. He sent me a copy of the invoice from whatever the something squared company was. It was turned in February of this year. February of 2022, the invoice was turned in for $49,130. The city paid that invoice in May. So I'm having some dissonance on the timelines on this. Tom, when was that RFQ done and when was the contract awarded and all that stuff? Because I find it hard to believe that we have another instance in the finance department of something not being scanned in timely, and I feel like we've got certain staff members not giving full information when directors are asking for it. And Tom, can you clarify the timelines on this RFQ and the contract? Because the data I show says we didn't even pay this until May of this year. So for some reason, something that was supposed to be for a sales tax issue that failed last year, it doesn't look like it was 2020. It looks like it was less than a year and a half ago.
Vice Mayor Hines, I don't know that I can clarify your timeline for you. I've got with me a thumb drive that has all of the documents on this that we got put together to send out, and then I had a letter that's known now from the prosecuting attorney today, and spent basically today getting in line with that document. So I've got the documents, I've got the thumb drive that had everything about this on it, and if I can, I will get that answer and timeline to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor Hines. Again, and what I would like to do, members of the board, if we can get back to the order of the business of the City of Little Rock, just to share with you, Director Hines, unfortunately, our procurement and finance department has, over the last couple of years, that's been reported, always had staffing issues. I believe you looked at we did a market analysis of every contract that the City of Little Rock has done from the procurement process, from the start of when the bid happened, the procurement and the work being done. You will see many, many gaps in months of that execution. So that has no bearing. Again, we sign up for scrutiny. So, but I promise you, if you look at every contract within the City of Little Rock, you'll see many contracts that may have been executed on one particular year and full payments not received to another particular year. So that is nothing, unfortunately, it's not normal. We were in the middle of a pandemic, number one, dealing with staffing changes, number two, prioritizing the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents and making sure our employees got paid on time. So that's an unfortunate matter. We know that. That's been communicated to the members of the board. So I just want to make sure I take up for the finance department and the procurement department, but also recognize that there have been systemic hiring issues in workforce during that period of time. So that's not anything that's not normal, unfortunately, and that's something I believe we're getting even more staffed up, and so we've been seeing some changes, but there's always opportunities for improvement, and we own that. Again, As I've stated publicly, not to continue to reiterate, I don't believe, I've never called Director Peck a liar or a lie. And again, sir or ma'am, whoever said that, you're being very disrespectful. You're being not disrespectful solely to me, but the people of Little Rock. And so if you continue to keep that up, we're going to ask that you be excused. Because we are maintaining a spirit of excellence here with amongst the city boards where we can agree and disagree civilly. With that being said, Director Campuris?
Can Tom send us that thumb drive, please?
Yes, sir. We'll make sure everyone gets it. All right, let me see if we have any more board members. Madam Clerk, if you will now read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda consists of a resolution to set November 15th, 2022 as the date of public hearing on the request to abandon a 40-foot wide utility and drainage easement located within the Woodlands Park subdivision, unrecorded, along the east side of Woodlands Trail in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to execute a contract with Agile Ticketing Solutions, LLC, in amount not to exceed $126,000 for point-of-service ticketing software for the Little Rock Zoo and for the purposes. A resolution to approve 2 operator permits and 65 taxi cab permits for WHC Little Rock LLC, doing business as Z-Trip and doing business as Yellow Cab for 2023 and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to transfer $5 million to the Little Rock Port Authority for economic development and land acquisition and for other purposes. A resolution to ratify and confirm the issuance and sale of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas Library Construction and Refunding Bonds, Series 2022, to ratify and confirm the principal and interest payment schedule for the bonds and the terms and conditions of the sale of the bonds, to ratify and confirm the execution and delivery of a bond purchase agreement, to prescribe other matters relating thereto, and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
Move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
There's a motion from Director Adcock, a second from Director Wright. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. We'll now go to citizens' communication. Mr. City Attorney, if you will remind me, when we have something on the consent agenda, do we still allow agenda items? I didn't think we did, but just want to be.
I mean, the
make sure.
consent agenda is intended to go through that. Board members have been known to ask that certain items be pulled off the consent agenda.
All right, so we'll continue to proceed. We'll now go to citizens' communication.
Mayor, point of order, can we, if he's given a card on this, we need to have it read into the record.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor, I couldn't hear
If
you.
somebody has given a card on an agenda item, that we normally recognize that somebody's given a card on that agenda item.
We have agenda items number 4, Brian Norwood, against. Agenda item number 4, Luke Scrable, against. We'll read that into the record of the consent agenda and reflecting no board member wanted to separate. All right. Consent agenda will now have Ms. Jacqueline Twilley. Jacqueline Twilley. Twilley. I thought that's what I thought. That's what I said. I'm sorry about that, Ms. Twilley.
Thank you so much, Mayor. First of all, I want to say God bless you.
Thank you.
I'm coming up here actually as a mother today and a grandmother in the city of Little Rock. It might be considered political, but it's not, because I know that there are Democrats and Republicans that are in favor. So I'm kind of putting myself on the line coming up here today because I know there will be many that may be in disagreement with me. But as a mother, this has just been so strong. And of course, you know my children. You grew up with them, and now they have children. And as a mother, I just, they went through all facets. So just really quickly, I just want to say that I am so against amendment for legalizing legal marijuana. And I know there are people on both sides of the agenda that are in agreement with that, whether they're Republican or Democrat. So I'm just coming as a mother. I truly want to fund our police, and I thank you for having that in mind in your support of that amendment. But changing the Constitution of Arkansas for that really concerns me as a mother, and I wanted to put that in public record. And thank you so much. And I ask that you also will either tell me, what your concerns are, but if you would vote against that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Twillie, and God bless you.
As CMVPs, or Christ's Most Valuable Players, this is on behalf of Dr. Cass, Carolyn Ann Smith, at Word of Outreach Christian Center, planted in the Love and Goodwill neighborhoods. All we attempted to do is just that, sow good deeds and love into the lives of single mothers, fatherless children, wayward teenagers, and hopeless men who've turned to alcohol, drugs, leading to lives of violence and early untimely deaths. Many people whose lives were in shambles have been totally turned around through our outreach ministry, and they are now part of our daily operations, desiring to be an example of what God can and will do for such distraught people who will partake of the grace bestowed upon this ministry. They live in apartments and houses that God has blessed our ministry with. These apartments and houses have been provided by God so that we might have a community that will afford us the ability to have a Goshen experience. This Goshen experience will be just like the king that the children of Israel...
Ms. Twillie,
The time is up.
Yes, ma'am, but whatever, if you have it written, if you'll give that to the city clerk, and we'll make sure that's entered into the record.
Yes, sir, I will. Thus, God's provisions have brought us this place of expectation, having the confidence.
Ms. Twillie.
Through.
Yes, ma'am.
That was the last paragraph.
Oh, yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. Would you like to-
Yes, if you'll just hand it over to her, we'll make sure. Thank you so much. Mr. Jimmy Cavan.
Frank, so many people have been contacting me, asking me to compare you and your administration to organized crime. Every time I get asked that, I respond by saying I can't do that. That's like comparing hyenas to hyenas. You and your administration are simply a criminal organization, and that's just a fact. Now, whenever someone like myself or Matt Campbell bring these facts to light, you and your pack of hyenas go on the attack. THV 11, Channel 7 will immediately put out false narratives and try to cover for you, like they're on the take or something. That's fine because, you've come to find out I love a good fight for right. I'm all in. And it looks like Matt Campbell is also. And if you notice, none of this has fazed Max Brantley in the Arkansas Times. In that ambush, you and Kendra Pruitt and Aaron Sadler tried to pull on Mitch McCoy of Channel 4 and Fox 16. Didn't slow them down a bit either. Now, where you have reached a new low that everyone sees, even in your base can't stomach, is attacking Cappy Peck. Really? Cappy Peck. I mean, I don't always agree with her on issues, but dear Lord, she's very sincere, caring, and a very honest person, whether we agree on things or not. I know her heart. And you're attacking her for having the courage to stand up and tell the truth. Why don't you just go out and beat up a Care Bear? You're not a mayor, and you're not a public servant, you're a bully. The problem for you is that you have ran into some folks who like to fight bullies, and really like to fight them. With us, it's not about an election. It's about something you will never understand. It's about right in wrong. It's about standing up for care bears. It's about standing up for care bears who summon the courage to take you and your pack of hyenas on. So now I want to give you an opportunity in front of the public to do the decent thing and apologize to Cappy Peck in public. Are you man enough to do that? She is sitting right there. She deserves an apology from you. Are you man enough to do that? It doesn't take courage to apologize. It just takes a man to admit he's wrong.
Mr. Cavan, your time is up. Mr. Brian Norwood.
You know, my grandfather taught me many lessons, many wonderful lessons that still serve me well today. And there are few things worse than a small politician. Very few things worse. A small politician plays small until it comes around election time, and then they spill out these poetic platitudes, trying to convince people that they are sincere and they are genuine and they've always been in their corner. See, I appreciate you, Director Peck, because what you did for your constituents, I did not have the courtesy of Director Miller doing that. Director Miller, Mayor Scott, Bruce Moore, they were told, elected officials were told by bureaucrats not to even speak to me about my issues. I've had an education for the last 11 months in city government, and it's just fortuitous that what you said, because the same experience that you're having, every other citizen in Little Rock who does FOI requests, who does simple requests, get the same response. We'll do it, and then the next day, we're not going to do it. You have bureaucrats injecting themselves in the middle of the process who ask questions of why you want that document. That's not your business. It doesn't matter why I want that document. Your job is to simply comply. Your job is to give me that document. See, you people are out of control. You are completely out of control because you don't realize you are employees. You are not government officials. You're employees. And I am your boss. Every citizen in Little Rock is your boss. Your job is not to be on the team of the mayor or be on the team of other wards. Your job is to be on the team of your constituents. That is your job. So when you come up here and you sit in your chair, you're not here to play ball with them, because if it does not provide service, if it doesn't serve well to the people in your district, in your ward, then you need to say no. I just came around University. I mean, Director Wright, you've driven up and down Asher Avenue for the last 4 years. There was one homeless person there when you started, and now there are 15. Have you ever stopped by and asked them what's going on? I just came down University and came around that loop. There's a guy drying his laundry in the middle of the intersection. But you have individuals from planning and environmental court going to Southwest and giving people a ticket for parking on their grass. But you can let people live on public lands.
Mr. Norwood.
I mean, how despicable is that?
Norwood,
and then you're going to limit the ability of citizens because it's your job. You're going to limit the ability of citizens to confront you and address that.
Mr. Norwood, your time is up.
I am.
Mr. Norwood,
And
please.
the last thing I'm saying, I'm going to.
Norwood, your time is.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Mr. Norwood, please, your time is
So
up.
a law enforcement officer is enforcing a timer. Don't you have something better to do?
Mr. Norwood, please.
There's a homeless person living.
Mr. Norwood, please.
There's a homeless person living over here. Did you go over there and talk to the homeless person?
Mr. Norwood, please.
I'm not going out. I'm going to sit back down.
Please, Mr. Norwood, please. Thank you, officer. Mr. Norwood's going to sit down. Thank you, Mr. Norwood.
You people are.
Mr. Luke Scrable. Thank you, officers. Thank you as well, Mr. Norwood. Mr. Scrable.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to exercise my First Amendment rights. Now, in 2018, the mayor's big campaign slogan was voting for a change. Yep, I'll agree. We got change. We got the worst kind of change, the change that sinks year by year by year. Now, this year in 22, we're growing forward with Frank Scott. Well, on Saturday, Mr. Cavan posted all this about Ms. Peck. I thought it was pretty despicable, and I think what I heard tonight, somebody's lying. If it ain't you, Mayor, it's Bruce Moore or Mr. Collins, but we have a liar in the room. We need to identify him because we don't pay as taxpayers to have our representatives lie to us. You said, Mayor, violence reduction requires a holistic and comprehensive strategy, and it must involve all of us as we work together to make our city safer. Well, on December the 15th and 29th of 2020, you verbatim told the board of directors, who are the representatives of the public voice, that you had the authority to run this city and you didn't need their help. If you alienate the people that are elected to serve the people, and then you're saying, all of us, we can work together. You got a mouse in your pocket, Mayor? The board ain't helping you, and that's why we're in this problem now. We had 43 murders the first year you were there, 55 the second, 65 last year, and we're at 70 now, sir. Before the first of the last month, we were tracking 6.5 murders per month. This last month, we had 10. So if we get 10 the next 2 months, we're going to end up with 90 murders, sir. 20 over our highest ever from 1993. So I'm speaking now to the voters of Mr. Frank. He's a known liar. He's a known lawbreaker. If you vote him in, we're not going to be moving forward. We're going to be moving backwards for another 4 years. And that 90 number we're going to hit this year is going to be small compared to next year if we don't get a mayor with leadership to come out, talk to the public, and let us know what you're doing.
Scrable, your time is up.
Holistic
Mr. Scrable, your time is up.
complaint is a joke,
Mr.
bro.
Scrable, your time is up. Please exit, Mr. Scrable. Thank you.
I'm so scared, bro.
Thank you so much. Ms. June Matheny.
What an enlightenment. And I want to say Director Peck is my city director, and I appreciate her. She has always been very helpful, very understanding, and immediately responds if I have a concern or a question or whatever. And I do respect that, but I respect your courage tonight more than anything. And what Director Wyrick said and some of the other people have said, it's wonderful. You shined a light on the darkness that is happening here. And the constituents of yours that I know, I will also express to them how this light is showing things that we had no clue about. I had no clue there were this many contracts that were just right below approval of the city board, and I'm very disappointed. We need to remember, just like Mr. Norwood said, we are the employers. Employment time is here. And I do hope people will look at everything, they will weigh everything, they'll make a list of pluses and minuses and vote very carefully. But thank you, Director Peck, for all that you've done. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Matheny. believe that is it on our agenda. Director Wright, I saw your hand.
Yes, Mayor. I would like to address something that Mr. Norwood said regarding the homeless.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moore,
No, sir.
Mr. Moore, I presented you with a proposal for a homeless outreach center in the Colonel Glenn University area due to the huge influx of the unsheltered in that area. It has just gotten woefully out of control. These individuals are not utilizing our Jericho Way facility. And I took the initiative and I met with Mosaic Church, University District, UALR Chancellor, and the UALR School of Social Work. And the Mosaic Church has an outreach program already. And they had recently hired a young man, I believe his name was Brandon Thomas, to be their homeless outreach coordinator and expand, in an attempt to expand their program. And they also were in the process of hiring 2 counselors that were skilled in mental health counseling. At the time that we met, these individuals, I believe they were from Arizona, from another state, but they were being recruited to come here to Little Rock. But they needed a healthcare facility to work under because they didn't have the number of hours required in Arkansas to do field outreach work. And so we met with Healthy Connections, who has implemented the West Central Health Clinic, because we do have mental health counseling available there. But the proposal that I submitted would be to develop a homeless outreach center, which Mosaic wants to do, behind their current location. There's a facility there that's going to be closing. It's now an urgent care facility. I don't know when it's going to close. But their desire was to take over that facility and move their homeless outreach services in there and provide case management services and try to help us as a city address the homeless or unsheltered population that's increasing in that area and along that corridor. When the Kroger closed, I did have a dialogue with Kroger executive, and one of the things they shared with me that kind of led up to that was people not feeling comfortable utilizing that store. And so when I spoke with the Edwards family about possible location there, one of the commitments that I made was to help them address the issues that impacted the previous owner that will undoubtedly impact them in their operation of their grocery store. As you know, we have low-income housing around there that's substandard. We've had these apartment complexes in court for years and with no change. As I understand it now, the Attorney General has one of them in court. The other one, I don't think we're even attempting to do anything about, but it's directly next to where this grocery store is going to be. And I said all of that so that the viewing audience can understand that I have tried and my hands are tied. I submitted a proposal and I brought together a coalition of people that are interested in working in that area. We know that dealing with an unsheltered population is not an easy task, and you have to have an entity that is, first of all, wants to do the work, and then second of all, has the infrastructure to do the work. And I believe a partnership with the University District, Mosaic Church, and the UALR School of Social Work, the Chancellor is on board. We have a good plan, and I sent that to you, and the last I heard was that you had agreed to issue an RFQ. I don't know where we are in that process, and I would like for you to bring me up to date and my colleagues up to date, but I want the public to know that I've done everything that I can as an elected official. I know that there's monies allocated for homeless issues. And that's the dollars that I'm asking for. And I only asked for $150,000. Mosaic came up with the figure that they felt that they could leverage that with what they have to attempt to address this problem. And it's getting worse. I recently worked with a group that cleaned up Shackelford Road. And the bags of garbage that they picked up in front of that beautiful corridor are still out there, not picked up. All they asked us to do was just go get the bags. And I was there the other day, and they're still there. And this was 2 weeks ago. So I don't know what else I can do. It was like tent city in there, and we sent our homeless outreach people into there, and a lot of these people refuse services. And with this being private property, we have to take certain legal steps. I understand all of that. I understand the process. But what I'm saying, the public doesn't understand the process. And they think that we can do something that we can't do. I'm not staff. I don't execute day-to-day operations. All I do is set policy as a board member and bring forward initiatives that I feel are needed in my ward to address the issues that I see and that my constituents bring to me. And I feel like I've done that, but I can't do anything further. So my question is, what is the next step in order to get some resources, dollars, on the street to address the homeless or unsheltered populations that are increasing along that corridor of University, Colonel Glenn, and it would help the population problem that we're having on Shackelford and into the woods on Old Shackelford Pass as well. So that's my question. Where are we in that process?
Sure, Director Wright, as I mentioned to you, after reviewing the proposal internally, I'm very supportive of the concept, but this is ARPA money, and the federal government has said you've got to follow the procurement policies. So we are in the process of drafting a request for proposal that not only Mosaic and other partners can jointly propose, but other entities, because that's the procurement laws that we have to follow at this point. So I love the concept. You're right. Those individuals there aren't going to go over to East Little Rock. We know that. So this does give us another opportunity, but we do have to go through the proper procurement procedure.
And so where are we in that process? How long does it take to draft the RFQ? Because I can write a draft.
Well, obviously, we have a model that we already use with our current day resource center, but because of the level of, or the type of funding we're using, there's so many other requirements that go into it. So I'll get you an update. I do believe we can get it out this month, but I'll get you an update on the potential date.
Okay, then I have another question to follow up. Are there any other dollars other than ARPA that are available that we could get out quicker?
Not that we've set aside at this point, but again, it's an appropriate program for those dollars. But anything, as you know, and we talked about earlier, anything over 50,000, we're going to have to put out a request for proposal.
And I'm okay with that. It's just the time frame. It just takes so long to get anything written on paper. I mean,
I'll get you an update this week on what the timeline is.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Wright. Director Compiers, your hand still up?
We going to the group items?
Yeah, we're getting ready to move there.
I'd like to hold number 7 separate and talk about it.
Right. So they're all separate, Mayor? Yeah,
They'll all be separate.
they're all separate.
They will be now.
6 and 7 are grouped.
Yeah, they are. Right. But if we separate one of them,
You got it.
they're all going to be separate, so we might as well read them individually.
Madam Clerk, you read, please, If you'll please read item number 6.
An ordinance to regulate the use of public and private sewers, private sewage disposal, the installation, construction, maintenance, and connection of building sewers, the discharge of waters and waste into the public sewer system, providing penalties for the violation thereof, repealing all ordinances and provisions thereof in conflict therewith, including ordinance number 17,965 of March the 16th, 1999, all pertaining to the sewer lines and system within the jurisdiction of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. First reading.
Move we suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to regulate the use of public and private sewers, private sewage disposal, the installation, construction, maintenance, and connection of building sewers, the discharge of waters and washes into the public sewer system, providing penalties for the violation thereof, repealing all ordinances and provisions thereof in conflict therewith, including ordinance number 17,965, all pertaining to the sewer lines in the system within the jurisdiction of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare an emergency. Second reading.
Move we suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to regulate the use of public and private sewers, private sewage disposal, the installation, construction, maintenance, and connection of building sewers, the discharge of waters and waste into the public sewer system, providing penalties for the violation thereof, repealing all ordinances and provisions thereof in conflict therewith, including ordinance number 17,965, all pertaining to the sewer lines and system within the jurisdiction of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to declare an emergency. Third and final reading.
We've had 3 readings. Before we go to members of the board, we have Mr. Brian Norwood.
You know, it's amazing to me how the city of Little Rock has survived for so long without you people. This ordinance that you're presenting is another attempt to penalize the citizens of Little Rock. And you're using this to avoid your actual primary responsibility. Curbs and gutters, street lighting, a little public safety. But instead of doing those things, instead of addressing, I mean, there's no sewer with this guy over here with his laundry. But you're not concerned about that. I'm sure he's not going to a hotel over there to use the bathroom. I was just driving down my street. There's no sewer with this guy that just put his tent up on a vacant lot. But instead of addressing real issues, you're creating issues and you're creating hurdles for your citizens. And you're creating additional penalties for your citizens. Do any of you know how much money the city collected just on fines for people who had dogs that didn't have a tag? None of you know that. I know that. Do any of you know how many homeless people are in this city right now? None of you know that. I know that. Why do I know your job better than you? Because I care. And if you don't care, then you probably need to find something else to do on Tuesday nights. Director Wright, I understand what you're saying, but let me tell you something. The people who you're coordinating with, those people already are doing homeless outreach. They're already doing those things. And the city does not need to inject itself into a system that has already been created. Word of Outreach has been doing it for decades. You people can't even run a 911 phone bank. What do you look like trying to do economic development? What do you look like trying to do housing development? You don't have that expertise. Well, with the exception of a few. You don't have the expertise of running and operating a business. Because once you build that homeless center, then what? I can have a conversation with you, and in a matter of a few weeks, I can help you figure that problem out. Because my own director, he doesn't want to have a conversation with me. But I can help you. And there are expertise in this city of people who actually care who can actually help, and stop going to these consultants and stop going to these people who don't even live in the city. Stop going to the people who consulted Los Angeles. Have you been to Los Angeles? Colorado Springs is about the size of Little Rock. Have you been to Colorado Springs? Have you seen their homeless? These people are living on the sides of side streets. They've put their campers there. So if you want a solution, don't go to people who demonstrate the wrong way to do things. You go to the people who actually demonstrate the right way to do things.
Director Compeers? You said for 6 or for number 7? It was for number 7.
Seven.
Number 7, okay. Members of the board, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. There's an emergency clause. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read ordinance number 7.
An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the participation of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas in an insurance pool administered by the Arkansas Municipal League in an amount not to exceed $478,154.76 for certain litigation costs, expense, and coverage, to declare an emergency and for the purposes first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nays have it. We can't go to a second reading, right, Mr. Attorney? It'll be taken up at our next board meeting. Director Compeers?
The reason I voted no on putting this forward, the Municipal League, according to this, says it's impractical and unfeasible to bid this. If you remember in the past, this organization, I think, hung this board out and our city attorney out. And at that point in time, I asked if it was feasible to find someone else to insure us for $478,154.76. And reading over this again last night, I realized that I did not ask that last week. And so I'd like the city manager to bring back any other suggestions or alternatives we have. This may be the only one we have, but it is not, to me, an organization that I think is friendly to us, and I think the amount of money that we put into this far exceeds the amount of money we get out of this. And I'd like all those numbers so we know what we're getting into.
Thank you so much, Director Compeers. From members of the public, this particular item was read for the first time. It failed for the second reading, so it will be taken up at our next board meeting for a second reading. I believe that will be on November the 15th. In the interim, our city manager is going to get the requested information from City Director Compeers to send to Director Compeers, and I'm assuming to the entire board as well. All right. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read. And Mr. Norwood, I do know you wrote 6 and 7. Did you want to give a comment on it? I know it's still going to have a second read, but I want to honor that you wrote on here 6 and 7. So
That would be out of order, Mayor.
be out of order.
Yeah.
But we'll log in that you were against it, Mr. Norwood. Well, now we'll go to item number 8. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 8.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan in the Interstate 630 Planning District at 3301, 3305, 3317, and 3319 Asher Avenue in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, from mixed use to commercial and for the purposes first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan in the Interstate 630 Planning District at 3301, 3305, 3317, and 3319 Asher Avenue in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, from mixed use to commercial. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to amend the land use plan in the Interstate 630 Planning District at 3301, 3305, 3317, and 3319 Asher Avenue in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, from mixed use to commercial, third and final reading.
We've now had 3 readings.
Mayor, I have my light on, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to get to you, Director Adcock.
Thank you.
We've had 3 readings. We do have a resident who wants to speak for Carolyn Smith, then we'll go to Director Adcock.
I would like to have a presentation by staff, please.
Yes, ma'am. We'll make sure, I believe Carolyn Smith, and then we'll have a presentation by staff.
What?
We're going to have the resident speak, and then after the resident, we'll have the staff come speak.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do it for me, so I'll do it myself.
And pull
It's
that mic.
appeal to the City Board of Directors. As CMVPs planted in the love and goodwill neighborhoods, all we've attempted to do is just that. Sow good deeds and love the lives of single mothers, fatherless children, wayward teenagers, and hopeless men who've turned to alcohol, drugs, leading to violence, early, untimely deaths. Many people whose lives were in shambles have been totally turned around through our outreach ministries, and they are now a part of our daily operations. Desiring to be an example of what God can and will do for such distraught people who will partake of the grace bestowed upon this ministry. They live in apartments and houses that God has blessed our ministry with. These apartments and these houses have been provided by God so that we might have a community that will afford us the ability to have a Goshen experience. This Goshen experience will be just like the king that the children of, be just like the kind that the children of Israel had when the death angel came throughout the land of Egypt. Not one of God's people experienced death in Goshen. So our aim in the love and goodwill neighborhood is to build such an environment. We are building community with immunity. The men, women, boys, and girls whose lives have been helped and rescued have dedicated themselves into helping others get what they've gotten, and that is an enhanced and better quality of life. Building community with immunity has been and is yet being maintained through us believers in Christ Jesus who have purpose to come together daily, Monday through Fridays, and Sundays for 3 main things to take place in our lives: corporate prayer meetings, Bible study sessions, fellowship gatherings to provoke one another unto love and good works. The call to function this way came to our leaders' heart while living in Arkadelphia, Arkansas in 1978. Upon moving to Little Rock in 1981 on 12th and Cross in his 2.5-car garage in the place where God continued that vision, however, the impact on the lives of the people caused the space to quickly become too small. Seeing the need for more operational space for such a growing ministry, 3300 Asher Avenue became the place God made available for expansion. We are very happy in 1988 moving into our first 3 buildings on Asher Avenue. Time would take too long to tell the story of what those buildings were like, of which we rolled our sleeves up and began to work day and night to make it suitable for our operations. We never dreamed we would acquire 15 acres and 18 or so buildings surrounding Asher Avenue, Brown, and Martin Street. But this is not the vision of a man, Bishop Robert E. Smith Sr. This is the vision of the Lord, as many have come to realize watching the many miracles of provisions that has happened over these past 34 years. And Joan Adcock, you know about that. Since moving into this community. No wonder God Almighty has planted us in the love and goodwill neighborhood. That's the neighborhood we're planted in Ward 1. That's who, what, and how he operates. Jesus walked the earth, going about doing good and bringing goodwill, hallelujah, to mankind, healing all who were oppressed of the devil because God was with him. I'm almost finished. Looking upon the life of Bishop Smith, we recognize that he is just a willing vessel to carry out the Lord's vision. Thus, God's provision has brought us to this place of expectation, having the confidence that he, through the city board of directors, will provide what is necessary for us to continue the Lord's vision of building community with immunity in these love and goodwill neighborhood. Thank you, Dr. Carolyn Ann Smith. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you so much, Ms. Smith. We do.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Ms. Smith, can you tell us what these buildings are going to be used for?
What buildings?
3301, 3305, 3317, and 3319 Asher.
Those are apartment buildings and houses where our workers live and reside. And the only reason why we're here, Ms. Adcock, is because we put up a fence that's beyond anything that you would see in the hood. And the city directors, they came looking at us, complaining about what we're doing, making things look better. Not the directors, I'm sorry, not the directors.
You're talking about code enforcement.
The code enforcers. And they came complaining about a banner that we had put up instead of paying $20,000 like we did for the Throne of Grace Prayer Garden fence that y'all made us put up. One of the brothers says, no, I was gonna put up a fence with an electric gate like they have in the gated communities. I was gonna put up a fence that the sisters could drive up and push a button and go in the yard that we had concrete and put a gate, a beautiful wooden fence around like you see in Kavanaugh somewhere. We're doing good in the hood, making it beautiful. How can we get complaints like this? And so the city code came and told us, the brother said, don't put up no gate. Don't spend that money like that. Just put up a banner that says prayer gate. And that's what we did. But the banner was too big. So they came and told us, your banner can't work. This is a residential area. And so we went and found out, well, what do we do? And they said, well, Mr. Thrower suggested that we change it. I didn't know about changing from a residential to a commercial. He suggested that we do it. And that's what we started doing. And so why in the heaven are people complaining? Ms. Adcock, why?
But this is asking for changing the zoning, and for residential, you don't need to change the zoning.
No, we do for the gates and for the fences that we want and for the banners that we want. We want to make a statement in the hood.
Thank you.
Mayor, I think we need a report from the staff.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Moore, Monty Moore, I believe is here.
Code enforcement or terrorist?
From the planning staff.
Yes, please come.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? How are you guys doing this evening? I'm Brad Jordan. I'm representing the planning department tonight. To your point, I'm new to the staff, so I don't know exactly what happened or what was said previously about banners and Director Adcock, to your point, if it's residential, changing it to commercial is a little strange to
Well,
me.
I hate to see them go into all the expense of changing this, and the taxes are going to go up way high on this, and they're going to keep it residential. So I think we need to look at that banner and see exactly what's going on. Mayor, I would like to have this deferred for
Mayor.
2 weeks.
We have Director Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. And I wanted to thank Director Adcock for giving me guidance on this. I reached out last Wednesday and visited with Bishop Smith, the requester for this change. and had him show me what was going on. It is a sign that is above one of the houses that code enforcement went by and said the sign was too big. And if they wanted to keep the sign, they needed to have this zoning change. That is all they are doing. And so with that, I asked, well, what else is going on? He said, nothing else. That's all we want to do. And so thanks to Director Adcock, I had a chance the next day to visit with the president of the Goodwill neighborhood, told him what was going on. He said, Director Miller, we have no problem with what the ministry is trying to do. We have no problem with that sign. I had a chance to visit with the president of the Love neighborhood, and she said she trusts the ministry. The ministry has turned houses that were crack houses and brothels into residential houses for people in the ministry. They've cleaned up the neighborhood. She had no problem with what the ministry's trying to do. Her concern she said her concern is way down the road, maybe if the ministry leaves, but the ministry's been there 30 years. And so all this is a sign that code enforcement said was too big for a residential area, suggested that they change it, and it was changed. As you can see by the Planning Commission, it was voted to approve it 9-4, none against, 1 abstention. I'm satisfied with this. I don't want to see it postponed. I'm going to vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Mayor, I would like to ask that this be deferred for 2 weeks until Jamie Collins is back, and that we can make sure that this is the best use that this church wants to have of this property, and to talk about the sign. I can't believe that we're going through all of this and all.
Ms. Smith, please. We have a motion on the floor. We want to make sure the Director Adcock, I understand that's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes, it's a motion.
Is there a second? Second from Director Wyrick. And for everyone in the room, the motion is to postpone for 2 weeks. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nays have it. So the motion fails. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Yeah, I actually see Director Wright's hand.
Yeah, Mayor, I voted no because I know they want to move forward and do their project.
Yeah.
But I kind of question the need for the change if it's all we're talking about is a sign. I mean, it seems like.
And the expenses are going to be so high on this property to change it and to the zoning and everything. And for just a sign, I would like to know exactly what's wrong with that sign.
Director,
I mean, that's just my only
Yes, ma'am.
question. If we're only talking about a sign, make the sign smaller.
yes, ma'am. Director Miller?
But anyway,
Yes.
Director Miller, I will concur. You as a ward director, you've done your investigation, your due diligence, and so it's whatever you want. This is your area. So, but I do have that question in my mind.
Well, I want to do, the best I can, and there's certainly communication issues that, between the ministry and the neighborhood that have been addressed. When I met with the bishop on Wednesday, the whole neighborhood was invited to come along, welcome to come along. And so I saw the sign. It to me didn't look like a big deal, but code said it needed to be rezoned in order for the sign to be there. To me, it's nothing. And so the next day I visited with the president of the Goodwill neighborhood. He does not have a problem with this. Does not have a problem with it at all. I visited the next day with the president of the Love neighborhood. She does not have a problem with this at all. Again, her only concern was that it's being rezoned, and what if the ministry leaves? The ministry's been there for 30 years.
We're not
Miss-
going anywhere.
I believe the ministry is going to stay there. They have cleaned up this neighborhood. Again, they've turned crack houses around to decent living quarters. They've turned brothels around to decent living quarters. I'm totally in favor of this, and I would move that we approve this ordinance.
May I ask?
Second.
Answer her question.
Motion is not necessary because you've had your 3 readings.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Smith, we're in the middle of the voting procedure, so we've had three readings. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it.
Mayor, I think I had one question for Dr. Smith while she was up there, and as Director Miller made reference to, they've done a wonderful job in that area for a long period of time, especially when we had high gang activity back in that area and dealing with some of the gang houses. And Dr. Smith, this may be an unfair question to you. What's your guesstimation on the amount of resources you've invested in that area? You have a gym there, you put a school there, you bought homes. I mean, it's significant amount of investment from a private sector standpoint in a marginalized community. Can you guesstimate for those of us who are here listening and watching and paying attention to what you guys are trying to do in an area that some people think the city has forgotten about? Well, I see the bishop is standing up. Maybe he can tell us.
And while my husband is coming, I'd like to answer her question about the sign, why it's important. Because of the name of our ministry is Word of Outreach.
Yeah, it's just the size, yeah. I know it's important.
We've invested approximately $5 million since we've been there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. We'll now move, Madam Clerk, if you'll now proceed to item 9.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purpose for first reading.
We suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, second reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, second reading.
We suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, third reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, third and final reading.
Now had 3 readings. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Members of the city board.
Mayor, can we just make it clear for the public in case it's not clear that both of those, number 8 and number 9, pass, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Members of the board, just due to the general election, the November 8th, 2022 Board of Directors agenda meeting will be held on Monday, November 7th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Mayor.
Director Webb.
A quick question. On September 30th, we had our budget meeting, and at that time, we asked when we were going to finish with a couple of the departments, and we've asked about that almost every week since, and I'm wondering if we have an answer yet.
Mr. Moore and Director Linehan and myself, we need to get together, get that to everyone as quickly as possible. Yes, ma'am. All those in favor, please say aye.
Mayor, my hand's up.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I didn't mean to yell.
Yes, ma'am.
When Dr. Smith was talking about the sign at this development, it brought back to my memory, there's a Park Ridge Baptist Church that's on Stagecoach and I-430. And one of the members of that church called me and said that code enforcement had been by there and said that their bow-shaped sign had to be removed. And if you drive down University, you'll see all the car lots, and they have those fabric signs that are up there. Well, this is a sign that they had in front of their church. I talked to Jamie Collins about it, and he said they are illegal, but we let car dealers put those up. So I'm thinking to myself, why would we let car dealers and not let a place of worship put a bow sign in their front entryway and all it says is welcome? So I would like to see us look at that and see if we can help that church out. So they took their sign down. Now, Jamie actually said that if they take it down during the week and put it back up on the weekends, that nobody's doing code enforcement on the weekends, so they could do it. But that's a lot of effort for them. So if we would take a look at how we could use those, they're called bow flags, is what they're called, at churches. If we can do it for car dealerships, I would think we could do it at a church as well.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
It's 8200 Flint Ridge Road is the address.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, this has triggered a red flag in my mind. I have a lot of code enforcement violations in Ward 6, and I would like to see a little bit more attention paid to real problems and code violations rather than a sign. I think we've gotten our priorities mixed up here. You know, I've got the parking in the yard, I've got the grass, I've got the, you know, I need some, I just got all kind of issues with code enforcement. I'm driving by seeing mattresses that don't get picked up, no tags or anything on them. I just think Mr. Moore, we might just need to reorient our thinking processes on some of this stuff, because to me, this didn't need to happen.
Mine was is zoning code enforcement, not
Yeah,
real code enforcement. But I'm like Doris, I mean, there's a lot of issues that are out there, and so we choose to pick on a poor church and ask them to take their welcome sign down.
I mean, yeah, we just need to put some priority on.
And I'll look into that, but I will say that, and I'm glad Director Wire mentioned, because there are two different code enforcement. There's the planning and development code enforcement, and then the housing, which mainly deals with residential. And I would say 90% plus of on the planning side of the complaints are actually come in from somebody in that vicinity, in that neighborhood. So that's been the history there. And when they come in, I mean, the staff goes out and checks it, and if it's not compliant, you know, they'll try to work with them. But while we had them take down the sign, that doesn't make sense to me. So we'll look at it.
Thank you.
There's a motion second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.